Most people spend their entire lives chasing money without ever understanding it. And that is exactly why they stay broke. The biggest financial mistakes are not made with calculators. They are made with emotions. Fear, ego, impatience, comparison. The wealthy understand something the average person never learns. Money is not just numbers. Money is psychology. In this audiobook, you will discover why smart people make stupid financial decisions, why wealth has little to do with intelligence, and why mastering your behavior matters more than mastering the stock market. If you understand these lessons, you will never look at money the same way again. Chapter 1. Stop chasing money and start understanding it. Most people spend their lives chasing money, working harder, working longer, taking extra shifts, starting side hustles, jumping from one opportunity to another. And yet, year after year, they remain stuck. Why? Because they are chasing money without understanding it. That's the key. Money is not just math. Money is behavior. Money is psychology. Money is emotion. And until you understand that, it doesn't matter how much you earn. You can make a fortune and still lose it. You can win the lottery and still end up broke. You can build a successful business and still destroy your financial future. Because money rewards behavior more than brilliance. Read that again. Money rewards behavior more than brilliance. Many people believe wealth belongs to the smartest people, but history tells a different story. There are highly educated people drowning in debt. There are average people quietly building fortunes. The difference isn't intelligence. The difference is behavior. You have a choice. You can spend your life learning how money works, or you can spend your life wondering where your money went. One path creates freedom. The other creates frustration. Think about this. Have you ever promised yourself you would save money? Then a few days later, you bought something you didn't need. Of course you have. Everyone has. That wasn't a math problem. That was a behavior problem. You already knew what the right decision was. You simply didn't follow through. And that is where financial success is won or lost. Not in spreadsheets, not in stock charts, not in complicated formulas, but in daily decisions. Small decisions, repeated decisions, disciplined decisions. Most people focus on making more money. Very few focus on keeping more money. That's the trap. A person earns more, then spends more, then wants more, then spends even more. The cycle never ends. Income rises, lifestyle rises, stress rises. Freedom disappears. That's not wealth. That's a prison with nicer furniture. True wealth is different. True wealth is having money you don't spend. True wealth is having options. True wealth is being able to say no. No to bad opportunities. No to toxic environments. No to decisions made from desperation. Because money creates options, and options create freedom. That's the key. Imagine two people. One earns $100,000 a year and spends $99,000. The other earns $50,000 a year and spends $30,000. Who is wealthier? Most people look at income. Smart people look at what remains. Because wealth is not measured by what comes in, it is measured by what stays. Money rewards behavior more than brilliance. The wealthy understand this. The average person ignores it, and that difference changes everything. Now here's another truth many people don't want to hear. Making money is often easier than keeping money. Making money requires effort. Keeping money requires discipline, and discipline is rare. People buy things to impress people who don't care. They finance lifestyles they can't afford. They sacrifice long-term freedom for short-term pleasure. Then they wonder why financial success never arrives. Success was never avoiding them. They were avoiding success. You have a choice. Every dollar that enters your life asks a question. Will you spend me, or will you keep me working for your future? Every dollar, every day, every decision. The wealthy answer differently. That's why their results are different. Now let's talk about patience, because patience is one of the greatest financial advantages in the world. Most people want results immediately. They want wealth this year, this month, this week, today. But wealth rarely works that way. Wealth grows slowly, quietly, almost invisibly, until one day the results become impossible to ignore. Think of planting a tree. The tree doesn't grow overnight. For months, sometimes years, growth seems slow. But beneath the surface, roots are forming. Strength is developing. Foundations are being built. Money works the same way. Small actions repeated consistently create extraordinary results. Not overnight, over time. That's the key. People underestimate what they can achieve in 10 years because they are obsessed with what they can achieve in 10 days. Patience is a financial superpower, and most people never develop it. Instead, they chase shortcuts, get-rich-quick schemes, easy money, magic investments, secret opportunities, and almost every time those shortcuts become setbacks, because wealth is not built on shortcuts. It is built on consistency. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission from your friends.
You don't need permission from society. You don't need permission from people who spend every dollar they earn. If you want financial freedom, you must think differently. You must act differently. You must become comfortable doing what most people refuse to do. Saving when others spend, waiting when others rush. Investing when others consume, planning when others react. Because financial success isn't about appearing wealthy, it's about becoming wealthy. There is a difference, a massive difference. One creates attention, the other creates freedom. Choose freedom. Always choose freedom. As you move through this audiobook, remember the lesson from this chapter. Money is not primarily about numbers. It is about behavior. It is not about intelligence. It is about discipline. It is not about earning more. It is about managing what you already have. Money rewards behavior more than brilliance. Never forget that. Master your behavior, and money becomes a tool. Ignore your behavior, and money becomes a problem. You have a choice, and that choice begins today. You now understand that wealth starts in the mind before it appears in the bank account. But understanding money is only the first step, because the next lesson may be even more important. Many people spend their lives trying to look wealthy. Very few focus on actually becoming wealthy. Let's continue. Chapter 2. Wealth is what you don't see. Most people don't understand wealth. They think wealth is visible: a luxury car, a giant house, designer clothes, expensive vacations, a social media feed filled with status symbols. But wealth is not what you see. Wealth is what you don't see. That's the key. The car parked in the driveway is visible. The money sitting quietly in an investment account is invisible. The watch on someone's wrist is visible. The financial freedom behind the scenes is invisible. The vacation photos are visible. The debt financing those vacations is often invisible. And this is where people become confused. They mistake spending for wealth. They mistake appearance for success. They mistake attention for achievement. The result? They spend years chasing an illusion. You have a choice. You can chase the appearance of wealth, or you can build actual wealth. Those are not the same thing. In fact, they often move in opposite directions. Every dollar you spend to look rich is a dollar that cannot work for your future. Every unnecessary purchase has a hidden cost. Not just the money you spend today, but the opportunities you lose tomorrow. That's the key. Many people see a millionaire driving a luxury car and think, "I want that life." What they don't see are the years of discipline, the sacrifices, the investments, the patience, the habits. They see the result. They never see the process. And because they don't see the process, they try to skip it. That is where mistakes begin. Imagine two people. The first person earns a high income. He buys the biggest house he can afford, the newest car, the latest gadgets. Everything looks impressive. People admire him. People envy him. People assume he is wealthy. But behind the scenes, he is struggling. Every paycheck is already spent. Every month brings pressure. Every unexpected expense creates stress. His lifestyle owns him. Now, imagine a second person. She lives below her means. She drives a reliable vehicle. She avoids unnecessary purchases. She saves consistently. She invests patiently. Nobody notices. Nobody applauds. Nobody is impressed. But year after year, her wealth grows. Her options grow. Her freedom grows. Who is truly wealthy? The answer is obvious, but society often rewards the wrong image. That's why so many people fall into the trap. They want to be seen as rich instead of becoming wealthy. Never confuse the two, because spending money looks rich. Keeping money creates wealth. Repeat that. Spending money looks rich. Keeping money creates wealth. Most people hear that statement. Very few live by it. Why? Because humans crave validation. We want approval. We want recognition. We want people to notice us. But financial success requires something different. It requires independence, the ability to think for yourself, the ability to ignore pressure, the ability to make decisions that others may not understand. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to save money. You don't need permission to invest. You don't need permission to live below your means. You don't need permission to prioritize your future. That's your choice. And that choice determines your financial future. Now, here's something most people never consider. The highest form of wealth is not luxury. The highest form of wealth is control. Control over your time. Control over your decisions. Control over your future. Because what good is a luxury lifestyle if you're trapped by it? What good is an expensive house if it creates constant anxiety? What good is an impressive car if it keeps you financially dependent? Freedom matters more. Freedom is the goal. Everything else is secondary. The wealthy understand this. That is why many genuinely wealthy people appear ordinary. They don't need to prove anything. They don't need attention. They don't need applause. Because confidence doesn't need an audience. And wealth doesn't need constant display. That's the key. One of the biggest mistakes people make is increasing their lifestyle every time their income increases. A raise comes. Expenses rise. A bonus arrives. Spending increases. More income, more consumption, more pressure. The cycle repeats endlessly. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it quietly destroys financial progress. The solution is simple, not easy, but simple. When income rises, increase your savings before increasing your spending. When income rises, invest before you upgrade. When income rises, protect your future before rewarding your present. Because every increase in income creates a decision. You have a choice. Consume it or compound it. Most people consume. The wealthy compound. That difference changes everything. Think long term. Always think long term. The purchase that feels exciting today may be forgotten next month. But the investment you make today could transform your future. One decision creates temporary excitement. The other creates lasting freedom. Choose wisely, again and again, day after day, year after year. That is how wealth is built. Not through dramatic moments, through consistent decisions, small decisions, disciplined decisions, intentional decisions. Money rewards behavior more than brilliance. Never forget that. The people who appear wealthy are not always wealthy. The people who are wealthy do not always appear wealthy. And understanding that difference can save you years of financial frustration. So stop measuring success by appearances. Stop comparing yourself to people whose financial reality you cannot see. Stop chasing symbols. Start building substance. Because wealth is what you don't see. It's the money invested, the opportunities preserved, the stress avoided, the freedom created, the future secured. That is real wealth. That is what matters. And once you understand this lesson, you stop trying to impress strangers. You start building a life that serves you, a life of freedom, a life of options, a life of genuine financial strength. You now understand that wealth is invisible. But even people who understand this truth often make another costly mistake. They compare themselves to everyone around them. And comparison is one of the fastest ways to destroy happiness, discipline, and financial progress. Let's continue. Chapter 3, The Dangerous Game of Comparison. Comparison is one of the most expensive habits in the world, not because it costs money directly, but because it changes the way you think. It changes the way you act. It changes the decisions you make. And eventually, it changes your entire financial future. That's the key. The fastest way to feel poor is to compare. Read that again. The fastest way to feel poor is to compare. You could be earning more than you ever earned before. You could be saving consistently. You could be making real progress, and yet One glance at someone else's life can make you feel like you're falling behind. That is the danger of comparison. It steals satisfaction. It steals gratitude. It steals perspective. And when perspective disappears, good decisions often disappear with it. Think about social media. Every day you see people showing their highlights, new cars, new houses, luxury vacations, expensive dinners, perfect lifestyles. But remember this, you are comparing your real life to someone else's highlight reel. You are comparing your behind-the-scenes reality to their carefully edited presentation. That's not a fair comparison, and it's not an intelligent one, because you rarely know the full story. You don't know their debt. You don't know their stress. You don't know their financial obligations. You don't know their sacrifices. You only see what they choose to show. That's the key. Many people destroy their finances trying to keep up with people they don't even know. Buying things they don't need, using money they don't have to impress people who aren't paying attention. And the result is predictable. More stress, more debt, less freedom, less wealth. You have a choice. You can spend your life competing, or you can spend your life building. You cannot do both effectively, because competition focuses on others. Wealth focuses on yourself. Competition asks, what do they have? Wealth asks, what am I building? Those are very different questions. The first creates insecurity. The second creates progress. Most people never stop to define what enough means. That is why they keep running. More money, more possessions, more status, more attention. But the target keeps moving. The promotion comes, then they want another. The new car arrives, then they want a better one. The bigger house is purchased, then they dream of an even bigger one. The cycle never ends because comparison has no finish line. That's the trap. The moment your happiness depends on having more than someone else, you enter a game you can never win. There will always be someone richer, someone smarter, someone more successful, someone with a bigger audience, someone with more possessions. Always. If your peace depends on beating everyone else, peace becomes impossible. That's why successful people focus on a different question, not how do I become better than everyone else, but how do I become better than I was yesterday? That's the key. The only comparison that truly matters is the comparison with your past self. Are you saving more than before? Are you making better decisions than before? Are you investing more consistently than before? Are you learning more than before? If the answer is yes, you're winning. Even if nobody notices, even if nobody applauds, even if nobody understands, because wealth is built in silence, not in competition. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to move at your own pace. You don't need permission to ignore trends. You don't need permission to focus on your own goals. You don't need permission to build wealth quietly. The world will constantly try to distract you. Advertising depends on it. Social media depends on it. Consumer culture depends on it. Someone is always trying to convince you that what you have is not enough, that you need more products, more upgrades, more purchases, more consumption. But financial freedom begins the moment you stop believing that message, because wealth is not created by buying more. It is created by needing less. Think about that. The person who needs less often becomes wealthier than the person who earns more. Why? Because satisfaction creates discipline, and discipline creates wealth. That's the key. Many people believe that a higher income will solve all their financial problems. Sometimes it helps, but often it doesn't. Because if comparison remains, no amount of money feels enough. A person earning $50,000 compares themselves to someone earning $100,000. A person earning $100,000 compares themselves to someone earning $500,000. A person earning $500,000 compares themselves to a millionaire. The numbers change, the mindset doesn't. That's why comparison is dangerous. It creates a permanent feeling of scarcity, even when abundance exists. And scarcity leads to poor decisions, desperate decisions, emotional decisions, expensive decisions. The wealthy understand something important. Enough is a powerful word. Enough income, enough possessions, enough status, enough approval. When you understand enough, you gain control. When you never understand enough, you remain trapped. You have a choice. You can define success for yourself or allow society to define it for you. If society defines success, you will spend forever chasing. If you define success, you can finally build. Build wealth, build freedom, build peace of mind, build a future. That is the goal, not winning a competition, not impressing strangers, not collecting status symbols, but creating a life that works for you, a life where money serves your goals, instead of your goals serving money. Remember this lesson. The fastest way to feel poor is to compare. The fastest way to feel wealthy is to focus on progress, your discipline, your habits, your future. Comparison steals attention. Attention creates action. Action creates results. Protect your attention. Protect your future. Protect your peace. Because once you stop comparing yourself to everyone else, something remarkable happens. You gain the ability to think long-term. You stop chasing instant gratification. You stop chasing approval. You stop chasing distractions. And that brings us to one of the most powerful forces in wealth creation: time. Most people underestimate it. Most people waste it. Most people ignore it. But the wealthy understand its true power. Let's continue. Chapter 4. Master patience before you master investing. Most people think investing is about picking the right stock, the right business, the right opportunity, the right strategy. But they are wrong. The greatest investment skill is not intelligence. It is patience. That's the key. Patience makes ordinary decisions extraordinary. Impatience makes extraordinary opportunities worthless. Think about it. Many people know what they should do. They know they should save. They know they should invest. They know they should think long term, yet they don't. Why? Because they want results now. Not next year, not 10 years from now, not 30 years from now. Now. And that desire for immediate results destroys more wealth than bad investments ever will. You have a choice. You can demand immediate rewards, or you can build lasting wealth. But you cannot do both. We live in a world addicted to speed. Fast food, fast internet, fast entertainment, fast delivery, everything is instant. So people expect wealth to be instant too. But wealth follows different rules. Wealth rewards patience. Wealth rewards consistency. Wealth rewards discipline, not excitement, not urgency, not shortcuts. That's the key. The wealthiest people often appear boring. They save consistently. They invest consistently. They wait consistently. Nothing dramatic, nothing exciting, nothing that attracts headlines. But year after year, decade after decade, the results become extraordinary. Why? Because time is doing the heavy lifting. Time is the secret partner of every millionaire. Never forget that. Many people underestimate the power of compounding. They hear about it. They understand it intellectually, but they don't truly appreciate it emotionally. Because compounding looks small in the beginning. Very small. Almost invisible. That is why so many people quit. The first year doesn't seem impressive, neither does the second, sometimes not even the fifth. But then something changes. Growth starts building on growth. Progress starts accelerating. And what once looked insignificant becomes powerful. That's the key. Small actions repeated consistently create massive outcomes. A small amount invested every month. A small improvement every year. A small habit repeated for decades. That is how wealth is created. Not through dramatic moments, through sustained effort. Imagine planting a seed. Would you dig it up every week to see if it is growing? Of course not. You trust the process. You water it. You protect it. You wait. Money works the same way. But many people refuse to wait. They invest for 6 months, then panic. They save for a year, then quit. They expect immediate transformation. And when it doesn't happen, they abandon the process. That is why patience is rare. And because patience is rare, it becomes valuable. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to move slowly. You don't need permission to ignore hype. You don't need permission to focus on long-term results. Most people are obsessed with quick wins. The wealthy are obsessed with long-term outcomes. That difference changes everything. Consider 2 investors. One constantly jumps between opportunities, chasing trends, following headlines, reacting emotionally, trying to get rich quickly. The other stays consistent, invests regularly, ignores noise, focuses on decades, not days. Who wins? History gives us the answer. The patient investor almost always comes out ahead. Because investing is not a test of intelligence. It is a test of behavior. Money rewards behavior more than brilliance. The same lesson keeps appearing again and again because it is true. Now, let's talk about fear. Fear is the enemy of patience. When markets fall, people panic. When uncertainty appears, people run. When headlines become frightening, discipline disappears. And yet, every period of fear eventually passes. Every crisis eventually ends. Every downturn eventually becomes history. That's the key. The patient person understands that temporary pain is often the price of long-term success. The impatient person sees temporary pain and abandons the journey. One becomes wealthy. The other starts over. Again and again and again. You have a choice. You can react emotionally or respond strategically. One creates stress, the other creates progress. Patience is not passive. Patience is active discipline. It is making the right decision and continuing to make it when nobody is watching. It is staying committed when results are invisible. It is trusting the process when others are doubting. That is real strength. Most people think courage means taking big risks. Not necessarily. Sometimes courage means doing the same disciplined thing for 20 years. Saving, investing, waiting, repeating. That kind of consistency is rare, and rarity creates value. Remember this: a tree that grows slowly often becomes stronger than one that grows quickly. The same is true for wealth. Fast wealth often disappears quickly. Slow wealth often lasts. Because slow wealth is usually built on habits, and habits are sustainable. That is why. Patience matters so much. It protects you from emotional decisions. It protects you from impulsive actions. It protects you from unnecessary risks. Patience creates perspective, and perspective creates better choices. Most people spend their lives searching for secret strategies, secret investments, secret formulas. But the truth is simpler. The strategy is patience. The formula is consistency. The secret is time. That's the key. You do not need to be a genius. You do not need to predict the future. You do not need to find the perfect investment. You need discipline. You need patience. You need time. The combination of those three things has created more wealth than almost any financial trick ever invented. So stop asking how fast you can become rich. Start asking how long you can remain disciplined. That is the better question. That is the question wealthy people answer correctly. And once you master patience, another powerful lesson becomes clear. Wealth is not only created by investing, it is also rated by saving. In fact, saving may be one of the most underrated financial skills in the world, because every dollar saved creates something more valuable than money. It creates freedom. Let's continue. Chapter 5. The Hidden Power of Saving. Most people underestimate the power of saving. They think saving is boring. They think saving is restrictive. They think saving means giving things up. But they are looking at it the wrong way. Saving is not about deprivation. Saving is about freedom. That's the key. Every dollar you save buys a piece of your future freedom. Every dollar you save gives you more options. Every dollar you save reduces dependence. Most people never see it this way. They see money only as something to spend, not something to protect, not something to build, not something to use strategically. And because of that, they remain trapped in jobs they dislike, trapped in situations they cannot leave, trapped in financial stress that follows them everywhere. You have a choice. You can spend every dollar that enters your life, or you can keep part of it working for your future. That choice seems small, but over time, it changes everything. Think about financial stress. Most people experience it. Unexpected expenses appear, bills arrive, emergencies happen, and suddenly panic takes over. Why? Because they have no margin for error, no buffer, no safety net, no savings. The problem isn't always the emergency. The problem is the lack of preparation. That's the key. Saving money is not predicting the future. Saving money is preparing for uncertainty, because uncertainty is guaranteed. Life is unpredictable. Jobs change, markets change, economies change, circumstances change. And when change arrives, savings become your shield. Without savings, every problem feels bigger. With savings, many problems become manageable. That is the hidden power most people ignore. Saving doesn't just protect your money. It protects your peace of mind. Imagine two people facing the same financial challenge: a medical bill, a car repair, a sudden expense. The first person has no savings. Panic begins immediately. Stress increases. Bad decisions become more likely. The second person has savings. The challenge still exists, but fear is reduced. Options remain available. Control remains intact. Who is truly stronger? The answer is obvious. And that strength came from preparation, not luck, not intelligence, preparation. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to save money. You don't need permission to be cautious. You don't need permission to prioritize security over appearance. Many people will not understand your discipline. That is fine. They do not need to understand it. They do not live with the consequences of your financial decisions. You do. And that is why your future matters more than their opinions. Saving often requires saying no. No to unnecessary purchases. No to impulse buying. No to temporary excitement. Most people struggle with this because modern culture constantly encourages spending. Advertisements tell you to buy. Social media encourages consumption. Companies compete for your attention and your money. Every day someone is trying to convince you that happiness is one purchase away. But it isn't. That's the key. A new purchase may create temporary excitement, but excitement fades. Financial freedom lasts. The wealthy understand this. That is why they often prioritize ownership over appearance, assets over liabilities, future benefits over present temptations. They understand that every spending decision has a hidden cost, not just the money spent today, but the opportunities lost tomorrow. Think about this. Every unnecessary purchase is a trade. You are exchanging future freedom for present satisfaction. Sometimes that trade is worth it. Often it isn't. The problem is that most people never stop to think about the trade. They focus only on the immediate reward, not the long-term consequence. And long-term consequences determine long-term outcomes. That's the key. Saving money creates flexibility, and flexibility creates power. The ability to leave a bad job, the ability to handle emergencies, the ability to pursue opportunities, the ability to make decisions without desperation. That is real power. Not status symbols, not luxury products, not public attention. Freedom. Always freedom. You have a choice. You can build a lifestyle that requires every dollar you earn, or you can build a lifestyle that creates breathing room. One creates pressure, the other creates possibility. Most people choose pressure without realizing it. Then they spend years trying to escape. Saving offers another path, a better path, a calmer path, a stronger path. Remember this: saving is not a punishment. Saving is self-respect. It is telling your future self, I care about your well-being. I care about your opportunities. I care about your freedom. That mindset changes everything, because once you begin thinking this way, saving stops feeling like sacrifice. It starts feeling like empowerment. Every saved dollar becomes a vote for your future, a vote for stability, a vote for independence, a vote for peace of mind. Money rewards behavior more than brilliance, and saving is one of the clearest examples. You do not need a high income to begin saving. You need discipline. You need consistency. You need awareness. Many people wait for the perfect moment, the perfect income, the perfect opportunity, but the perfect moment rarely arrives. The habit matters more than the amount. That's the key. Small savings create big habits. Big habits create big outcomes. The process begins long before the results become visible, and that is why most people underestimate it. The strongest financial foundation is not built on excitement. It is built on discipline. Day after day, month after month, year after year, saving creates security. Security creates confidence. Confidence creates better decisions, and better decisions create wealth. That is how the cycle works. Not overnight, not instantly, but inevitably, if you remain disciplined. So remember this lesson. Every dollar saved buys freedom. Every dollar saved buys options. Every dollar saved buys peace of mind. And freedom is worth far more than temporary appearances. You now understand the power of saving. But even disciplined savers often make a dangerous mistake. They assume they can predict everything. They assume the future will unfold exactly as planned. It won't. Because one of the most important truths about money is this: risk is always present, and the greatest risks are often invisible. Let's continue. Chapter 6. Risk is always invisible. Most people think risk is obvious. They think risk comes with warning signs, bright red flags, clear signals, loud alarms. But real risk rarely announces itself. Real risk is silent, invisible, unexpected. That's the key. The biggest risks are the ones you never see coming. Think about history. Every major financial crisis surprised someone. Every market crash shocked people. Every economic downturn caught millions off guard. Not because the signs never existed, but because most people believed everything would continue exactly as it had before. That is the danger. Success creates confidence. Confidence creates certainty. And certainty creates blindness. You have a choice. You can respect uncertainty, or you can ignore it. One path creates resilience. The other creates vulnerability. Most people spend their lives preparing for what they expect. Very few prepare for what they don't expect. That is why unexpected events feel so devastating. A job loss, a business failure, a medical emergency, an economic recession, a sudden market decline. These events are never part of the plan, yet they happen every day to ordinary people, to successful people, to intelligent people, to everyone. Because risk does not care who you are. Risk is part of life. That's the key. The goal is not to eliminate risk. That is impossible. The goal is to survive risk. The goal is to prepare for uncertainty. The goal is to build enough strength that unexpected events do not destroy your future. Many people misunderstand this. They spend all their energy trying to predict the future, predict the market, predict the economy, predict trends, predict opportunities. But prediction is not the most valuable skill. Preparation is. Read that again. Prediction is not the most valuable skill. Preparation is, because nobody knows the future. Nobody, not the experts, not the analysts, not the investors. Nobody. The future has a habit of surprising everyone. That's why preparation matters more than prediction. Imagine two people. The first assumes everything will go perfectly. No savings, no backup plan, no margin for error. The second expects uncertainty, maintains savings, controls debt, builds flexibility, keeps options available. When challenges arrive, who survives? The answer is obvious. Preparation wins again and again. Not because preparation eliminates problems, but because preparation reduces their impact. That's the key. One of the biggest financial mistakes people make is believing recent success guarantees future success. A business grows, a career advances, investments perform well, everything seems stable. Then confidence becomes overconfidence, and overconfidence creates risk. History repeats this lesson endlessly. People become comfortable, then careless, then vulnerable, then surprised. The cycle repeats. Why? Because risk is always invisible until it becomes obvious. And by then, it is often too late. You don't need their permission. You don't need permission to be cautious. You don't need permission to build a safety net. You don't need permission to think differently from the crowd. In fact, some of the best financial decisions will look unnecessary until the day they become essential. That emergency fund you built, that extra savings account, that conservative financial decision. Those choices may seem unexciting today, but during a crisis, they become priceless. That's the key. The wealthy understand something many people overlook. Survival comes first, growth comes second. Because if you cannot survive difficult periods, you never reach the prosperous periods. This principle applies everywhere. Investing, business, career decisions, personal finances, protecting what you have is often more important than chasing more. Yet most people do the opposite. They focus entirely on growth, more money, more returns, more opportunities, more risk. And eventually they expose themselves to dangers they do not fully understand. Risk hides in confidence. Risk hides in success. Risk hides in assumptions. That is why humility matters. Humility reminds you that uncertainty always exists. Humility keeps you prepared. Humility keeps you alert. Humility keeps you learning. And learning keeps you adaptable. You have a choice. You can act as if nothing will ever go wrong, or you can build a life capable of handling difficulties. One approach creates fragility. The other creates strength. Choose strength. Always choose strength. Think about nature. The strongest trees are not the ones that never face storms. The strongest trees are the ones built to survive them. Money works the same way. Financial strength is not avoiding every challenge. Financial strength is surviving challenges when they arrive. That is real resilience. Most people focus on maximizing gains. Very few focus on minimizing catastrophic losses. The wealthy do both because they understand a simple truth. You can recover from small mistakes. Recovering from massive mistakes is much harder. That's why protecting downside risk matters. It is why diversification matters. It is why savings matter. It is why patience matters. Each of these habits exists for one reason: to help you survive uncertainty. That's the key. Money is not a game of perfection. It is a game of endurance. The person who remains standing often wins, not because they were the smartest, not because they were the luckiest, but because they survived long enough for good decisions to compound. Remember that. Survival is a financial advantage. Resilience is a financial advantage. Preparation is a financial advantage. Most people search for secret opportunities. The truly successful prepare for hidden risks. That difference changes everything, because when uncertainty arrives, and it will, the prepared person stays calm. The prepared person remains flexible. The prepared person keeps moving forward, while others panic. That is the reward of preparation, not certainty. Confidence, not perfection. Stability, not prediction. Readiness. And readiness is one of the most valuable assets you can possess. As we've learned so far, wealth is not built through appearances. It is not built through comparison. It is not built through impatience. And it is certainly not built by ignoring risk. Wealth is built through behavior, through discipline, through preparation, through wise decisions repeated consistently over time. But there is one final obstacle that destroys more fortunes than market crashes, recessions, or bad investments combined. An obstacle that lives inside every human being: ego. And until you learn to control it, money will always remain difficult to manage. Let's continue.
Take a moment and think about what you've learned so far. Most people spend their lives chasing money, but you've discovered something deeper. Money is not primarily about numbers. Money is about behavior. You learned that wealth begins with understanding money, not simply earning it. You learned that real wealth is often invisible. You learned that comparison destroys satisfaction and steals financial progress. You learned that patience is more powerful than prediction. You learned that saving creates freedom. And you learned that risk is always present, even when you cannot see it. These lessons may sound simple, but simple does not mean easy. The truth is that most people already know what they should do. The challenge is doing it consistently, day after day, month after month, year after year. That's the key. Financial success is rarely created by one massive decision. It is created by thousands of small decisions made correctly over time. The decision to save, the decision to wait, the decision to ignore comparison, the decision to prepare, the decision to think long-term. Those decisions shape your future. You have a choice. You can hear these lessons and forget them tomorrow, or you can apply them and change the direction of your life. Because knowledge alone changes nothing, action changes everything. Remember this: money rewards behavior more than brilliance. Freedom matters more than appearances. Patience beats shortcuts. Preparation beats prediction. And discipline beats emotion. Carry these lessons with you. Review them often. Apply them consistently. And most importantly, remember that wealth is not a destination. It is a process. A process built one decision at a time. Thank you for listening to part 1 of The Psychology of Money. In the next part, we'll explore the hidden dangers of ego, the role of luck and risk, the true meaning of financial freedom, and the habits that create lasting wealth. Until then, stay disciplined, stay patient, stay focused, and keep building the future you deserve.